What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the Extra Zone Arcade. Today we're going to be covering everything we know about the upcoming Super Mario Party Jamboree. A little bit of a departure from our previous videos, mainly because it actually isn't Sonic related. But of course, I love covering Mario stuff too, so let's take a look at what we know so far about this game. Maybe we can get a better idea of what to expect after this video, who knows? It could also age poorly, but hey, let's just jump into this already. I think it makes the most sense to focus on the Mario aspect of this party to start out with, meaning we're going to cover who's returning to this outing. We're going to do this game by game in chronological order, so first up, the original 6 consisting of Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yoshi, Wario and Donkey Kong all return. That covers the first 2 games, so next to the Mario Party 3 veterans and Mario spin-off mainstays, Daisy and Waluigi. Toad, Koopa Troopa, Shy Guy, Boo and Bowser all technically make their playable debut in Mario Party 4, but only in specific game modes, and they make their return here. This is also where we see our first non-returning character in Koopa Kid, but he's also been dead since 2005, so I think we all saw that coming. Toad and Boo would later become fully playable in Mario Party 5, just felt the need to mention that too if you'd rather count this as their debut. Toad entered the fray in the series' 6th entry and is here to take names once again, and was later joined by Birdo and Drybones in the GameCube's final Mario Party entry. Birdo did get in this time, but unfortunately our favourite undead reptile did not make the cut. It is truly a sad day for the Boner Nation. Mario Party 8 introduced 2 characters who are going to be sitting this one out, Hammerbro and Blooper, and Mario Party 9 brought Kamek, who's joining those 2 on the bench. This is also the game where Shy Guy became fully playable, if you don't want to count Mario Party 4. Taking a detour to the 3DS, Bowser Jr. makes his debut in Mario Party Island Tour, but later joins Super Mario Party for his first mainline game. Diddy Kong first appears in Mario Party Star Rush and also goes on to feature in Super Mario Party as his first, and unfortunately last, mainline title. Sorry Diddy, unfortunate time to have that name, isn't it? Back to the main series, Spike and mainstay Rosalina joined up back in Mario Party 10, as well as Big Bad Bowser being fully playable here, outside of the actual Mario Party mode. But in Super Mario Party he does finally become playable in all modes, meaning you can count this as his first playable appearance. This game also gives us a handful of newbies, including Goomba and Monty Mole, who have waddled in once again, and Pom Pom does return, but no longer in a playable role. Sad. Or is it? Anyway, no new characters were introduced in Superstars, a first for a mainline Mario Party. That just leaves us with the 2 newcomers for Jamboree, that being Pauline and Ninja. So, out of every character who's been playable in series history, here's a roster of veterans and the 2 new faces. Pretty stacked cast here, but there are some painful exclusions that I'm hoping just haven't been revealed yet, or may get an invite in the form of content updates. Beyond that, it'll be pretty interesting to see who else might be entering for the first time. Personally, I'd like to see the Talking Flower added to the game. How would that work? Look, don't think too much about that, it'd be hilarious. Now that our roster is out the way, let's talk minigames. This game's got a mix of new and familiar challenges, so let's go through and see if we can find anything we recognise. Once again, we're going to go in game order here and find out using this screenshot from a recent gameplay video our returning challenges. From the one that started it all, Platform Peril pushes its way back onto the list along with Treasure Divers and the iconic Bumper Balls. Shy Guy Says also returns but doesn't show up on the list, and maybe one of the locked games in this screenshot, but we know it's going to be based on the Mario Party 2 version. Speaking of that game, I can't spot any more from it, and Mario Party 3 seems to be absent entirely. Once again, these could be any of the 5 unrevealed spots. Coming back from Mario Party 4, we have Stamp Out, Free Throw, Blame It on the Crane, and Domination. Mario Party 5's Leaf Leap makes another appearance, followed by Defuse or Lose. There's also this Indiana Jones type minigame that resembles Granite Getaway from Mario Party 6, but uses pretty different graphics and environments. Also from that game, Jump the Gun and Snow Brawl strike back. As far as we know, these are all the returning ones, meaning that only the first 6 games minus number 3 are represented this time around. Still, a pretty good selection of games that don't return that often, even if there aren't that many. Thankfully, this does mean the focus is overwhelmingly on new content this time, so let's go through the list and identify the new games. Obviously, we'd be here forever if I covered them all, so let's just stick to the ones we've seen gameplay of, starting with this minigame where you run along a path avoiding these Shy Guys swinging on logs. The next one is this game where you have to take a photo that matches the one in the middle, and one where you move along a revolving platform avoiding obstacles. The next one sees you move around a spherical arena Mario Galaxy style to plant your character's token over these flag spots. We actually have a name for the next 2, those being Sandwiched, where you have to avoid being crushed by falling lunch as they stack up, and Hot Cross Blocks. where you have to select a path to help you progress. Try not to choose the same as your opponent or you'll go in nowhere. After that, we have one where you ground pound to create shockwaves that knock out your foes, and one where you need to try and avoid being blown off the stage by these typhoons. We then have one of the Joy-Con motion games in the form of this one where you tilt a platform to roll the golf ball into the hole. We do also get a look at another one where players need to hammer in nails using motion controls. The next one we got here has you jumping on ant troopers while avoiding their horn variants, and then a game where a single player pilots a banzai bill while the others work together to avoid it, called Sunset Standoff. After that, we have another named one being Cookie Cutters, where you have one player that needs to use certain buttons to cut out the shapes, and a team of 3 that has to work together to do the same. Next is a game where the single player has to hide while the other 3 get a guess each as to which hatch they're in. Another 1v3 game here where the solo player controls a bruiser mech to try and punch out the team, followed up with a game where the solo player has to whack the other 3 with a hammer as they defend their dough. On to the 2v2 minigames, we have this one where you're tied together and have to swing each other across a large wall. A fruit sorting minigame is up next where they come along a conveyor belt and it's your team's job to put them in the correct boxes. Hungry? I hope so, because this minigame called Prime Cuts has your teams compete to see who can get the most even cut of this juicy steak. The one after that has you compete using these mechs in an arm wrestling competition. For the next one, work together using the spotlights to project the right shapes onto the board to build the one shown in the middle. We have another named one with Tricky Turntable where you work together to step on buttons to get coins and avoid blowing up. It's time to duel with this next 1v1 minigame where you ground pound a button to slap your opponent silly. Our next category of games are ones that appear in minigame medley, with the first being this game where you saddle up with Yoshis and race to the end. Then we have a Donkey Kong themed rhythm game where you play the bongos, and then a strange one where Bowser Jr. will hit a button to bring out enemies to avoid, or have the players pick up chickens? Yeah, that one's a little out there. But then we have the newly introduced 8-player games. First up is this one where one group of players will collect apples for the second group to juice them in a factory, where the third group will then put them in boxes to ship out. The next one is a little more simple, where you rally a volleyball across a court divided into 8 sections, followed by one where you shoot oncoming targets with cannons. The next one is also pretty simple and has everyone hit a button to stop a roulette on the image shown, where the one after that has you all work together to complete a full image with panels. We have essentially Dungeon Dash on crack with this next minigame where all 8 players must coordinate to beat Wiggler in a race. And finally, we have the Koopathlon minigames, consisting of this one where you have to use a hammer to whack the Monty Moles while avoiding bob-ombs. The next one is a game where you need to bake bread to the correct doneness to earn the most coins, and one where you push off a little Yoshi plush along with some blocks in one of those arcade machines. Our last minigame with a name to it is Lane Change, where you drive down a long road collecting coins, which is then followed by our first minigame featuring Imposter Bowser. All you need to do is run from him while avoiding cannonballs and falling into the lava below. The last Koopathlon minigame is this one where you have to avoid falling while Imposter Bowser makes tiles disappear. And finally, the last minigame we've seen gameplay of is from the original reveal in the Direct, where multiple players cut down falling vegetables. I forgot to mention this before, but there is also this one minigame where 2 players have wings and they're carrying a third player in a basket. Not 100% sure what this one's all about, but it was in the Nintendo footage, just adding this in real quick. Yeah, there are a lot of minigames this time around, and with this we now know 51 or just under half of all the games in there. Anyway, just want to remind you to subscribe real quick because I had to do a ton of research looking at different videos, screenshots and other things to try and catch all of them. I feel I've earned it, especially if you've watched this far. So, let's talk about those boards a little, shall we? We haven't seen a lot of gameplay of these, but here's what we know about each of them. We'll start with the returning maps, and first off is Mario's Rainbow Castle from Mario Party 1. This map looks pretty much unchanged from the original aside from Bowser being replaced by Imposter Bowser when the castle is flipped, and an item shop featuring Koopa Troopa on one side and Kamek on the other. Western Land also just gets the modern graphics upgrade for the most part. Other than those small differences, these maps will be just as you fondly remember them, as was the case with the returning boards and superstars. The other 5 boards here are all original, so let's talk about them a little. Mega Wiggler's Tree Party is a forest board featuring, of course, a giant wiggler in the center. A few of the board's spaces are actually atop his back, and a certain bell item you can get will cause him to move around, changing how you make your way through. There are also event spaces with bells that will probably do the same thing. The other event spaces feature a Spike who you can help collect honey from beehives. All around the map we can also see Toads and Goombas making pancakes and breads being baked in ovens for the festivities. The next board, Roll on Raceway, sees you travelling around in cars, which is super cool. Feels like we haven't gotten this type of uniqueness for an individual board since the early days of Mario Party 2. Not only that, but it features an exclusive item, the quadruple dice. This gives you 4 dice rolls to work with and some slick golden wheels to leave the competition in the dust. Around this map there are also pit stops you can land on that seem to be the way to obtain these turbo dice. Goomba Lagoon has quite a lot to it with many different board gimmicks. It's a cool beach setting with its focal point being the Goomba volcano that can erupt with lava bubbles that land on various spaces, which will cause you to lose coins if stepped on. Alternatively, it can erupt and shoot out golden Goombas that when stomped on will give you coins. There's also a zip line you can hop on to move from the docks to the base of the volcano, and the water level can be raised or lowered with this magic conch shell. There's also a broken ship on the left hand side of the stage and Goombas playing volleyball towards the right. Tons of details and stuff to explore in this one. In this footage we can also see the return of that ally system from the first Super Mario Party. This time you have to win a minigame medley challenge to get them to join you, meaning you probably can't just rack up partners to win this time around. Landing on a red space with an ally will also cause you to lose more coins, so be careful. Reminiscent of Coconut Mall from the Mario Kart series, we have Mario Party's take on a shopping centre in the form of Rainbow Galleria. There are plenty of stores set up here and 3 floors to explore using the escalators, so let's see what we can find. First of all, there seems to be a system where you can collect stamps to fill out a card, which you can then cash in for coins. There's also these different coloured balls you can collect that when given to this toad you can get rewards. The highest reward being a golden pipe, which you get by handing in the golden ball. At some point it seems like shoppers flood the mall and this will probably change up how you get around the map, with some parts now being blocked off. Something else I noticed was this door that says 4th above it. Most likely this is something only accessible by the player in last place that gives them some kind of pick-me-up, probably in the form of items and or coins. Classic Mario Party spaces like the Boo spaces are represented as stores here, so pay attention to those signs. This is also where we get a look at some of the new items you can purchase from the shop. There's this one that looks like you can only get it on this map, that from what I can gather increases the price of stars for other players. But translating the text is proving fruitless for me, so if anyone can figure this one out, let me know in the comments. The classic pipe also appears and seemingly warps you to a random location on the map, and the warp block now uses its design from Super Mario 3D World. Lastly, there's an item that looks like a warp block that specifically takes you to a shop which may or may not also be exclusive to this map. In this footage, Bowser is also seen using a double dice in gold that gives you coins equal to the total number of your roll. Unclear if this one is going to be available in the other maps. A flash sale can also happen where the cost of stars and items are reduced for a short time, so act fast. The last board we have to talk about is King Bowser's Keep, which bears a bit of resemblance to King Bob-omb's Powder Keg Mine from Super Mario Party. What were they cooking with that name? Anyway, a giant imposter Bowser stands in the middle surrounded by a platform that can have its direction changed with a lever item. There are also cogs with coins on them and other mechanical aspects to this one, such as these Mecha Koopas you can stomp on. Doing so sends them through an entrance and we don't get to see what it actually does, but my guess is they blow up on Imposter Bowser or something like that. That's pretty much all we have on this one, and everything we have on the boards. Overall, great selection with unique gimmicks and settings that have the potential to be some of the best in the series. Can I also just say these are a massive improvement over the boards from the 2018 game? We come very far from that. Unfortunately, one problem from that game does persist. The characters are slow as molasses on the boards. They fixed this in Superstars, but it's reared its ugly head here again, which so far is my only complaint with what we've seen. Hopefully this does get improved at least a little before release. We're now going to talk about the Koopathlon mode a little more, because this mode looks like it might be the highlight for me. So, you play online with up to 20 players and compete in various minigames. The more points you earn in some games, the more spaces you move, while the others are ranking based, meaning if you rank low, you might get kicked back a few spaces. There's also Bowser Kaboom Squad, which isn't part of Koopathlon, but here you work together to load up cannons that'll shoot Imposter Bowser. You only have a short time to deal as much damage as possible, so coordinate well. Playing mini games here earns you a ranking, and depending on that rank, you'll get items you can use in your next battle against the False King. We don't get to see what happens if you take the Tyrant down, but we do get a look at the final aspect of the game I'll be covering in this video, which is the Mount minigame equivalent. The first mode here is one where you compete in minigames to be the first to 3 stars, just like the minecarts in Mario Party Superstars. Like in that game, there's a version centered entirely on 2v2 games, but there's also one where you're on hang gliders that's based on eliminations, I think? You also get a ranking here, so not sure what that all means yet. There's this one where you're in submarines with Koopa, but we don't really see any of what this mode looks like, although the game seems to revolve around earning coins. And to end this whole video off, you can play all minigames in a free-for-all style just like in previous games. So, that's everything. Of course, there are smaller changes like new victory animations, Mario, Luigi, Wario and Waluigi now being voiced by Kevin Afghani, slight changes to assets here and there, etc. This game truly is looking like the biggest Mario Party ever, and I am so excited to get my hands on this, both to play on and off stream. Of course, when it comes down to the stream, make sure you're following us on Twitch and or subscribe to the YouTube live channel to keep up with those. Trust me, you won't want to miss them. Links in the description. Make sure to subscribe here and keep it locked for more coverage, mainly on new Mario and Sonic releases, and I'll see you in the next one. Woohoo!